What the heck is ketogenic diet?
Quickly lose weight.
Fats with benefits.
Satiates your appetite.
Ketosis.
Ketosis.
Butter is good.
Explain yourself.
Dr. Mike just recently posted a video on the ketogenic diet. Wait a minute, let me just... It is an old video, but let's see what he has to say about the ketogenic diet. Let's dive right in.
Before we get into the ketogenic diet, let's break down some very simple nutrition basics. There are three major macronutrient groups that we're gonna be paying attention to: proteins, fats, and carbs. These are nutrients that you find in the foods you eat every single day. The standard American diet consists of 35% of fats, 15% of proteins, and 50% of carbs.
That is so many carbs. To put that in perspective, the average American consumes 3,600 calories a day, so doing the math, that comes out to 450 grams of carbs. If you want to visualize this in food, that is 30 slices of bread a day. That is literally insane.
Now, if you're looking at the ketogenic diet, the numbers are quite different, with 75% being fats, 20% being proteins, and only 5% being carbs.
Wow, that is gorgeous. Would you look at that?
Well, would you look at that?
I would say that anyone who's just starting a ketogenic diet, or anyone on one at all, could potentially benefit from reducing their 5% carbs all the way down to 0% and replacing that with protein. The reason why is because carbs are going to be your primary driver of insulin. And when insulin goes up, fat oxidation goes down. And you want to keep fat oxidation high so that you can become fat adapted.
Think about that. That's 10 times less carbs than in the standard American diet. Let's say you switch from your standard diet to a ketogenic diet. What happens inside of your body? Your body deals with this very low carb consumption in two ways. First, it enters a state called ketosis, which shifts your body's energy source to primarily fats, which basically means that it breaks down fats into something known as ketones, hence ketosis, and then uses those for energy. Simply put, your body begins to burn fat as its primary energy source and moves away from glucose, which is a carbohydrate. The process of going into ketosis does take a few days, and during those days, people experience some adverse side effects: brain fog, irritability, nausea, GI discomfort. Some people label this the keto flu.
I don't feel so good.
This is essentially sugar withdrawals, stemming from neurochemical changes, electrolyte changes, and overall just your body adapting to oxidizing fat instead of glucose.
The second process your body uses is gluconeogenesis, which sounds scary, but it's really not. All it is your body creating glucose, because not all cells can function on fats alone.
Gluconeogenesis isn't actually a keto-specific function. It's always occurring in your body to some extent.
Fun fact here, for survival purposes, you don't need to consume any carbs as long as you're getting enough fats and proteins.
Or for thrival purposes.
Now, where did all of this hype for the ketogenic diet come from? Let's take a look at the claims and find out what's true and what's not. Claim number one, the ketogenic diet is good for weight loss. Yeah, the ketogenic diet is good for weight loss, and this happens through two important mechanisms. First, since you're using fats as your primary energy source, you're burning a lot of stored fat. Second, because fat is very satiating, makes you feel full, when you eat a high fat content meal, you actually don't want to eat as much, therefore you limit the amount of calories you take in throughout the day.
Those are both really good points. It's also the healthiest way you can lose fat, because you don't need to restrict yourself of calories, therefore you don't need to restrict yourself of nutrients. It also just so happens to be that the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet are high in protein and fat.
For those of you seeking long-term weight loss, the ketogenic diet is not super sustainable. It's graduation day, all your friends are going to get ice cream, some of them are getting a cookies and cream milkshakes, and you can't have any because you're on a keto diet? That's crazy.
Huh. I guess being healthy is unsustainable, guys. Pack it up.
You have to be super vigilant when you're on the ketogenic diet, because carbs have this nasty habit of just sneaking into your foods. Ketchup, high carb food, apples, bananas, cookies and cream milkshakes. Well, I just love cookies and cream milkshake.
Yes, this can be an issue, but there's a very simple solution to eat whole foods. Not only are you going to be able to differentiate between foods that have carbs and which ones don't, but you're also going to be healthier. There are plenty of junk keto foods, but eating those does not mean that you are healthy. You still have to eat natural whole foods.
Claim number 2, the ketogenic diet is good for the brain. The truth of the matter is, the jury's still out on this one because science hasn't given us the answer. The research on this area just hasn't been completed yet. Anecdotally, some people say they feel more focused or sharper when they're ketogenic diet, but I've also heard from patients of mine that they feel foggier and that keto flu stays with them much longer than anticipated. So I don't like using anecdotes as reasons why a certain diet is good or not. I need quality research, which I just don't have.
It is quite clear now that a ketogenic diet is good for your brain. We know that blood sugar fluctuations are bad and increase the rate of aging and cognitive decline. So stabilizing that is going to be the best on a ketogenic diet. It's going to be the most stable out of any other diet. We also know that ketones, the primary energy source created from ketosis compared to glucose when you consume carbohydrates, is actually a more efficient fuel source, producing more ATP per unit of oxygen compared to glucose. We also know that it produces less free radicals. It's a cleaner and more efficient fuel source. People on a ketogenic diet show major improvements in mental health disorders like schizophrenia, autism, depression, anxiety, epilepsy. It is quite clear that it is good for your brain.
Claim number 3, the keto diet prevents or manages many chronic diseases. This is a yes and no answer. Where keto diet really shines is in type 2 diabetes. Because when you have type 2 diabetes, you have insulin sensitivity issues, you have high sugar content in the blood, and research has shown over and over again that the ketogenic diet for type 2 diabetes works. We have to talk about childhood epilepsy because that's where the keto diet actually got its roots. We can actually prescribe the ketogenic diet to children who have refractory epileptic seizures, and what we find is once they get into a state of ketosis, they have a decreased frequency of these seizures. It works, it's proven, it's evidence-based science. The ketogenic diet has shown some promise in the field of oncology, aka cancer. It's not ready to be a prime time cancer treatment just yet, and the research doesn't fully support it to be a preventive measure for developing cancer. But what we do know is that some promise is there and more research needs to be done.
What do you mean yes and no? That was all yeses. I want to talk about cancer prevention. So cancer cells primarily run off of glucose, and when you're on a ketogenic diet, you're essentially going to be starving these cells. You're also going to be going in and out of autophagy, which has been shown to be effective in the early stages of cancer and for cancer prevention. Ketosis has also been shown to actually improve the effectiveness of chemotherapy as well. So ketosis is it could definitely be good for cancer prevention, absolutely.
Some harms that can stem from following a ketogenic diet, nutritional deficiencies from cutting out large food groups.
You can become nutrient deficient no matter what diet you're doing. In fact, I would argue that you are less likely to become deficient on a ketogenic diet because the most low nutrient foods typically tend to be processed carbohydrates. And so when you're eating primarily fat and protein, you tend to be consuming more nutrient-dense foods. And at the end of the day, if you are nutrient deficient, that is your own fault. Nutrient deficiencies are not a potential harm of a ketogenic diet. They are a potential harm of being a human being.
An increase in your bad LDL cholesterol.
To say that LDL cholesterol is bad for you is ignoring so much nuance and context. You have to understand that your body does not create anything that's bad for you. Any semi-knowledgeable biologist understands this.
Kidney issues.
I actually don't know what he means by kidney issues. It was referring to the high protein that's been debunked several times unless you have kidney disease.
Bone issues.
I think he's referring to the lack of calcium, but then that just loops back around to the nutritional deficiencies aspect.
And even the increase of some certain cancers when you're overeating foods like processed or red meats.
Processed meat is bad, absolutely. But to say that red meat increases the risk of cancer is very bold. It is one of the highest consumed foods on Earth and has been for all of our existence. And we know this through stabilized stope carbon analysis. It's like saying grass increases risk of cancer in cows. And the only evidence this is based on is associative studies.
My final thoughts on the keto diet. I think it's a good diet for weight loss. I think it's better for short-term weight loss than long-term weight loss. So if you have a wedding that you're getting ready for, some kind of big event that's upcoming, and you're otherwise healthy, I don't think it's a bad diet to go on.
Not a bad diet? What do you mean, bro? Come on.
The fact that the diet is very difficult to adhere to because of how much you have to drastically change your eating patterns, of the possible adverse effects that can come from following the diet.
I don't know what to tell you, man. Big changes in health mean big changes in diet. You can't get healthy eating the same junk every day. You have to change your perspective on food and see it as something that nourishes your body instead of just a quick dopamine spike.
And frankly, from the lack of knowledge and the lack of research we have on its long-term effects, all put into question and really encourage me to not recommend this diet to the majority of my patients and to you at home.
Since this video has been published, there's been an overwhelming amount of positive research on ketosis, and there continues to be more and more. But even better, we have historical evidence. And this is such an important discussion because in order to understand what is healthiest for a species, you have to understand what they're adapted to. We know that grass is healthiest for cows because that is what they're adapted to. The same goes for every other species on the planet as well as humans. Throughout all of human history, we have been going in and out of ketosis. Just fairly recently, we have begun to stop doing this. And the reason why we went in and out is because of seasonal changes, different access to different foods. We didn't always have carbohydrates in the wintertime. Since we know that this is something that we are adapted to, we know that it is at minimum not going to be detrimental to us and is most likely going to be healthy. We also know that most diseases and metabolic dysfunction come from insulin resistance. So going into ketosis every now and then for a couple months at a time is likely very healthy. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions or videos you want me to react to, go ahead and drop it in the comments or shoot me an email. I'd love to hear anything that you say, and I'll see you in the next video.
Subscribe or the broccoli man will feed you his offspring while you sleep.